A very good evening, the 26th day of January 2024. A very busy day for the corridors of justice. A lot of ruling and judgments made today. We have all that and so much more in the broadcast, and as well a conversation tonight, this being the Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. And did you know that cervical cancer is the second most common cancer in women? And tonight we're going to be having the conversation just to demystify all the facts and the fiction, and of course treatment as well. I will be speaking to Dr. Nyongesa, who is the owner of Texas Cancer Center, as well as Lillian, and we'll be talking about the ways in which we can prevent and of course just take care of ourselves as women to prevent cervical cancer. That and so much more. Before that, here are our top stories. Tonight on Lookuptv Weekend, the court bill stops President William Ruto's housing levy, declaring it unlawful.
Sisi tumewambia wale wako kotini, tunaheshimu mahakama na tutaenda kufanya appeal.
President Ruto vows to implement housing project despite court ruling declaring housing levy unconstitutional. And azimio leaders demand President William Ruto to refund Kenya's deducted money after court stops the housing levy. Once more, welcome to the broadcast. This is Lookuptv Weekend. I am Nancy Nalima. Our sign language interpreter for tonight is Felista Adundo. Feel free to engage with us at Lookuptv on X, Lookuptv on Facebook, and Lookuptv on our YouTube channel. Let's begin. President William Ruto's affordable housing plan has suffered a major blow after the Court of Appeal declined to extend an order allowing the government to continue collecting the housing levy. A bench of 3 judges on Friday morning ruled that public interest tilts in favor of not granting the order sought by the government.
Received a huge blow after the appellate court upheld the decision of the High Court. The deductions for the construction of affordable housing are against the law. In a decision disseminated through an email, 3 judges, including Lydia Chode, John Mativo, and Moniki Gachoga, decided that it will be against the interests of Kenyan citizens if the restraining orders against the affordable housing plan presented by the High Court were lifted without the case being decided. Busia County Senator Okiya Omtata, Rarieda MP Otiende Amolo, and the Law Society of Kenya through their lawyer Eric Theuri are some of the 54 Kenyans who filed a petition against the affordable housing program. Affordable housing tax charges began to be implemented last year, where each employee pays 1.5% of a possible monthly salary. Judges Majanja, Meoli, and Mugambi outlawed the house tax after a series of petitions against the 2023 Finance Act, claiming that the National Assembly was wrong in approving some items of the budget.
That the deduction is unconscionable and impractical, that Part 1 of the 4th Schedule to the Constitution limits national government's functions in relation to matters housing, to development of a housing policy, and no more, that public participation in respect of the levy was cosmetic and a mockery of the centrality of the people as a source of authority exercised by the government.
The 3-judge bench in High Court last year found the deductions to be against the Constitution, but immediately told the court that the suspension of taxes will cause a huge budget conflict and confusion in the country.
And staying on that, President William Ruto has declared that his government will be challenging the appellate court's decision barring the state from deducting housing levy from Kenyans. Speaking in Meru County on Friday, the president said he will be appealing the decision while defending the housing program, describing it as a cornerstone of his plan to create thousands of employment for jobless Kenyans.
The government was deducting 1.5% from each employee, with employers matching with an equivalent amount. That, however, grounded to a hold after the Supreme Court declined to allow the collections to continue.
Tunaheshimu mahakama na tutaenda kufanya appeal na tutatengeneza sheria ili mambo ya vijana wa Kenya ajira ipatikane. Vijana mamilioni wanahangaika madukani vijijini kwa sababu wamemaliza shule lakini hakuna
The president said the housing projects across the country have absorbed various skilled Kenyans into the working bracket, enabling them to earn a living, further promising to create about 300,000 jobs through the housing program before the end of the year.
It is the first time in the Republic of Kenya that we have an administration that has a clear, demonstrable, practical plan on how to create job opportunities for the young people of Kenya, because we have millions of young people posing existential threat to our republic unless we do something about their employment.
The declaration now means that the Attorney General is likely to move to the Supreme Court to challenge the decision. As that pens, salaried Kenyans have been spared from remitting the contentious levy that would have seen their gross pay shrink significantly.
And no amount of court cases is going to derail our plan to change Kenya, because the plan and the transformation of Kenya has been delayed for many years by vested interest and corruption and people who do not have a plan on how to take Kenya forward.
John Matava, Lookuptv.
More on that, Kenyans have continued to give their opinions following Friday Court's decision to suspend the 3% housing levy charges to employed Kenyans, which is shared between the employers and the employers. As our very own Stanley Lugari reports, majority say that the government should respect the court's decision, barring the state from deducting housing levy from Kenyans.
The house levy. We don't want to own our houses. We don't have money. Our lives are hard. We are saddened. We are not happy because we are hustling for a small amount of money through our businesses. How can we be paying our bills through the house levy?
Kenya, sisi we as citizen of Kenya ni yetu, na tunarely sana na court inatusaidia. Tunataka kusaidia kama hivi bila mambo nani kwa gani. Court kama inaamua kitu gani, kubali sababu court imekuwa ikiamua pale kila mahali imekuwa ikiamua kama ni mambo ya election na kualika kila mahali. Kama court ya Kenya inaamua kika ni hivi. Let's obey because we are people who fear the law. Sheria tuko nayo kama tuseme hatutaki mambo ya sheria. Kama tutaki mambo ya sheria, we cannot live in other countries where there is no law. But if there is law, no sure you have to obey. Hiyo ni nasema.
Kwa mambo ya sheria lazima tupitie public participation before. Tuende tusimamisha ama tuende to amend in anything kwa constitution. Hiyo mimi ndio ninajua kwa sababu wangeita public participation before, ndio sasa wakuja walete any change kwa mwananchi ndio tuweze kuembrace.
Right, and staying on that, opposition leaders led by Raila Odinga have called on the government to stop collecting taxes to build affordable houses after the court's ruling on the unconstitutionality of the housing levy. The leaders have demanded the government to refund Kenyans their money.
Opposition leaders led by Raila Odinga today in the coastal region welcomed the move by the courts to maintain that the housing levy is unconstitutional.
Kwa sababu katika bunge la kitaifa tuliwaambia kwamba hiyo housing levy ni kinyume cha katiba. Katika bunge la Senate tukawaambia ni kinyume cha katiba. Wakapitisha na kifua eti kwa sababu wana nambari. Leo hii kama mlipa ushuru, kama mtu ambaye alikuwa amenyang'anywa pesa ya housing levy, kwa niaba ya wafanyikazi wote wa Kenya, tunaambia Ruto ikifika leo jioni, uturudishie pesa yetu ambayo ulikuwa umechukua kiharamu.
Speaking during the ODM registration drive in the coastal region, the opposition leaders called on the government to refund Kenyans the money that has already been collected as housing levy.
La kwanza,
Koti imesema ile mpangilio ya kupeleka askari yetu kule Haiti sio halali. Koti imesema hiyo siku ya leo. Kwa hivyo Ruto aachane na askari yetu, afanye kazi yao ya kulinda wananchi wa Kenya. La pili, koti imesema ile mambo yake ya housing levy pia imeisha. Si namna hiyo. Sasa serikali ya Ruto waanze kufanya mipangilio. Hiyo pesa yote wamesanya kutoka kwa wananchi kwa wafanyikazi juu ya housing levy waregeshe, sio? Warudishe kwa wananchi na wafanyikazi wenyewe. Wangapi wanaunga hiyo mkono?
Na hilo swala tulimuambia katika bunge la kitaifa, Opiyo Wandayi alimuambia. Katika bunge la Senate, Sifuna alimuambia. Akapitisha yeye na vibaraka wake ndani ya bunge. Leo hii mahakama imemwambia ng'o. Hiyo ni kinyume ya sheria, si ndio? Wacha nimalize kwa kusema
Raila also castigated the government for the demolitions that are happening in Msambweni, saying that the government is going against its promise to Kenyans.
Nikatoa taarifa mara moja kusema hii ni kitendo cha unyama, haitakani fanyike katika Kenya mpya. Haya ni vitendo tulikuwa naona wakati wa ukoloni, lakini hatukudhani ya kwamba serikali ya Maafrika inaweza kuvumilia kitendo cha unyama kiasi ile. Wakina wazee, wakina mama na watoto, wengine ni wajawazito, wanatimuliwa manyumba inararuliwa kama karatasi.
Brian Amwai, Lookuptv.
The government continues to face a huge blow into the corridors of justice after the High Court stopped its program to deploy Kenyan police officers to the Haiti nation. The High Court, in its ruling on Friday, declared the deployment unconstitutional and illegal, bringing the program to a halt. Already, President Ruto's administration has signaled its intention to appeal the decision.
It has been a bad day in office for President William Ruto's administration. After the Court of Appeal halted the implementation of the housing levy, the High Court has declared the decision to deploy Kenyan security officers to Haiti unconstitutional and illegal. The decision by the High Court has now thrown the government back to the drawing board to ensure when such a decision is made, it follows the laid down procedures and regulations. The government had intended to deploy the Kenyan officers under a program funded by the United Nations that seeks to restore security in the volatile Haiti nation, which continues to witness gun violence and organized crime from criminals. The government, through its spokesperson Isaac Mwaura, has made it clear it will be appealing the decision. This decision is raising questions as to why the government is insisting on deploying the Kenyan troops despite the court stopping the move, and with some Kenyans also opposed to the decision. Henry Tendanyula, Lookuptv.
That story by Henry Tender takes us to a very fast break here on the program. So much more on the other side. A lot more court stories. And of course, our night's conversation, we're talking about cervical cancer. It is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. We're demystifying all the myths and prevention measures that one can take to prevent this cancer. Don't go too far.
Mambo ni mawili, kufikisha, kumwaga na kurudi. Kulala ni mwaka mpya.
Muka we mse. Nini mbaya? Wewe kwani woni vile dereva anaendesha gari vibaya, lazima tususe. Anaendesha gari na kwa simu the whole time, hata angalia barabara. Mamiseni dereva tusimame. Wewe dereva wewe. Mwaka iliyopita peke yake watu zaidi ya 3,000 walipoteza maisha yao barabarani kwa sababu ya kama hizo. Hautatuangamiza tukiona.
Naomba msamaha, nitampeleka vizuri.
Si wameomba msamaha. Sasa tuende tusafiri kwa mwendo wa aste.
Dere Smart hufikisha abiria salama. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with Lookuptv. This is Look Up Weekend at Lookuptv on Facebook, Lookuptv on X, and Lookuptv on our YouTube channel. Let's begin. Plans are underway to ensure a smooth transition towards achieving universal health coverage under the new Social Health Insurance Fund from NHIF set for March this year. Health CS Susan Ahumicha, during stakeholder engagement, revealed that all plans are set to oversee the transition. Stanley Lugaria now files.
Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Ahumicha has on Friday revealed that every Kenyan will be compelled to register the new Social Health Insurance Fund program SHIF under the Social Health Authority, as the new health insurance is poised for a massive rebranding from the already tarnished NHIF.
Social Health Authority under the Social Health Insurance Fund. So you can only get an excess, but you cannot go. Yeah, you can, but you cannot miss to have the one that we have put as a base. You must have the base.
Under the SHIF, the ministry has further proposed 2.75% contribution for those in employment sector and 300 shillings for those in informal sector, insisting that the current laws as entrusted, NHIF has been exploiting those employed with a lesser salary by paying more in terms of percentage compared to those with higher salaries.
With the current NHIF, I pay 0.1%, 0.17% because I pay 1,700 every month. A Kenyan who earns 10,000 pays 500 shillings. That is 5% of their income. So it's the people with less that have been paid more.
In the new SHIF laws, contributions for those in formal sector will be monthly, as those in informal sector are set to make annual payments, attracting 2% penalty per month, catering for locals and Kenyans only for those under informal sector, revealing of enhanced security with a third check while accessing the system to avoid pilferages.
So one, we are going to work with the COG on the economic regional blocks, so that then we go to that level. Then we'll go down to the county level and hold meetings with the elected leaders and the people representatives from all the mashinani.
Newborn children will be registered and included under the parent within 14 days after birth, with biometrics taken at the age of 7 years. SHIF will not cater for travel expenses for medical either locally or abroad, with no new registrations for existing members.
Their service is delayed because of this queue that is here. So what we want to do is to ensure that you get services closest to you. But again, we have asked ourselves, why is it that people would leave a facility closest to them and go to a higher facility? Maybe there's no health worker, there are no medical supplies, or there is no equipment to do a testing and diagnosis. We want to ensure that the facility closest to you has a health worker, has pharmaceutical and medical supplies, and has equipment.
At the same time, Nahomecha confirmed the current shortage in inhalers in the country, relating it to the whole supply chain system problem, having emanated from the national supplier, KEMSA.
What I have read on social media is that Ventolin is out of stock. Last night I went to a chemist to check whether Ventolin is there or is out of stock, and I confirmed that Ventolin is out of stock. However, Ventolin is a brand name. That is the original that was manufactured by GlaxoSmithKline. There are others that we call generic drugs.
Stanley Lugaria, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Thank you, Lagaria. Now, National Council of Churches of Kenya have shown concern over the high taxation that is being implemented by the government on citizens. Speaking in Kisumu town, Bishop David Kobia has urged the government to fight corruption in the country instead of imposing more taxes.
National Council of Churches of Kenya, led by Bishop David Kobia, with other religious leaders in Kisumu City, have shown concern over the difficult life Kenyans are going through following the increase in taxes by the government. The bishops narrate that current situation in the country have caused many to lack basic needs, including food.
We've gone several miles behind from where we were. Today, anyone earning less than 10,000 shillings is like someone who is not earning anything at all. Gone are the days when people could afford even to employ a house help, because now you cannot afford. Gone are the days when we could afford at least even 2 meals a day. Today, even those who are working, they can't afford even their lunch.
Kobia has also put the government on the spot following the increase of corruption cases in the national and county government. He added that corruption is progressively disabling the nation and allowing wastage of public property.
Government is the worst beggar with power on earth. Government does not have money. It is we who have money. And those people who are making policies, who are imposing some of these policies, they are not feeling the pain ordinary Kenyans are feeling. Simply because whenever you see them driving, those fleet of vehicles are fueled by taxpayers' money. They don't pay anything from their pocket. When you see them hosting guests, even in their places of residence, the money spent is not from their pocket. So these people are not feeling the pain.
CCK now wants government to be responsible and protect public finances. He also indicated that citizens are having problems to support themselves due to high cost of living, unlike the previous government. Reporting for Lookuptv, I'm Shamila Baraza.
Moving on, the body of a 17-year-old boy who drowned in River Nyamindi 2 weeks ago has been retrieved. The family of the deceased is now relieved as they make burial arrangements. The boy's body was found 2 kilometers away from where he drowned near the Kanjero Bridge in Mururi. These and more stories in our counter up with George Hayesi.
Jesit Murimi, a Form 3 student from Kirinyaga County, was camping with his twin brother Laban Mushira along River Nyamidi. According to Gishozo Sub-Location Assistant Chief Pati Kwaweru, the incident happened on the 3rd of January 2024 when Jesit Murimi, who was swimming alone in the river while his twin brother watched in a distance. The boy's body was found 2 kilometers away from where he was drowned near the Kanjero Bridge in Mururi. The body has been taken to Kibugi Funeral Home Kutus, and the family is keen on giving the son a decent burial.
Assistant Chief, Gishozo Sub-Location. Kwa hakika tulikuwa tumeshinda kwa hii mto Nyamidi tukitafuta huyo kijana kwa muda wa wiki 3 na leo ndio amepatikana. Sasa amechukuliwa na maafisa wa polisi na mpelekwa Kibudi moja. Alikuwa twin brother na mwingine anaitwa Raban, na huyo Raban hajawahi yesa kuhudhuria masomo.
Naitwa Phineas Mudike na wengine siku ya leo tumempata mtoto ambaye tulikuwa tumekaa muda mrefu tukimtafuta, tumempata leo hii.
Practicing herbalists under an umbrella body known as National Traditional Health Practitioners Association, NATEPA, are headed for a local public university to formalize their knowledge in herbal medicine. The chairman of the association, Paul Okibo, petitioned Governor Simbarati to sponsor their education. However, he clarified the Natepa members were free to raise their own fees or seek support. Okibo dismissed herbalists peddling medicine on the streets under unhygienic conditions, claiming they were misleading their patients and challenged them to come on board.
Na kikundi kama hiki tutatengeneza Kenya yote. Kila county tutaenda, tutengeneze kila county kikundi cha kuanza kushirikiana. Na kikundi hiki kitasaidia wale wanaoenda masomo. Watu wanafikiriwa kwamba madaktari wetu si wazuri. Wale wabaya, leo tumezungumza hapa kwa mkutano. Wako wale wa bandia, wanaweka madawa hata barabarani. Wengine wanajitangaza sana hata kwa radio. Hao kama wakupita hiyo utaratibu ambao nimezungumza hapa, basi hole wao. Kwa sababu lazima mtu ajulikane kweli, sio mtu anaanza maneno kichwani mwake alafu anaitwa daktari.
The government is set to construct a 100 million shilling fish processing plant and storage facilities in Lake Naivasha to improve fish production and reduce fish imports from China. According to CS Salim Vuria, the facility that will be constructed on the land donated by Kenya Wildlife Service, adding that the project will be a major boost to fishermen in the region.
Ni aibu kubwa kwamba tuanze kuagiza samaki kutoka nje. Tunataka samaki wetu tuhakikishe ndio tunaboresha sasa tuweze kupeleka nchi za nje, sio sisi hati kufanya import ya tilapia. Hiyo ni aibu kubwa, na ndio maana rais alisema sasa hakuna tena importation ya tilapia.
George Kayesi, Lookuptv.
And in sports, 2024 FKF Women's Cup draw took center stage with a total of 22 teams participating in the draw. The teams comprised of 8 FKF Women Premier League clubs, 4 FKF Women Super League clubs, 6 Women Division 1 clubs, and 4 regional and county clubs. The preliminary round fixtures: Nairobi Starlets will take on Royal Starlets, 2 Cravens, Levy Starlets, Milima Queens will face Gospel Women.
That is the first game of the preliminary round. Ladies and gentlemen, playing Royal Starlets from Kitale. That is preliminary round, match number 1, Nairobi Starlets versus Royal Starlets from Kitale. Second match, and the second match, ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 Cravens from Nairobi West, 2 Cravens, and 2 Cravens will be playing.
Tuna go for each and every game that tuna get. So vile tumeignite fire tayari. I think team imegel, tusha blend, tuko ready sahi kwa opponent wote, na vile msema kila siku si tunataka one match at a time. It doesn't matter kama ni friendly, kama ni league, ama ni cup kama hii. Sina plan ya kusign more players. Nimesign 2 players but nimekuwa nao all along. Tumekuwa tukitrain nao, walikuwa on loan Buja, so wakachelewa on ITC, so wamekuwa part of the team from the beginning. Na si
And we're done with this first part of the broadcast. We take a break. When we come back, we'll be getting into our conversation tonight. Taking center stage is cervical cancer. We want to create more awareness as well as demystify all the myths and misconceptions and know better ways for treatment as well as prevention. I will be speaking to Dr. Catherine Nyongesa, who is the CEO and founder of Texas Cancer Center, as well as Ms. Benda Kisaka, who is founder and executive director, Kilele Health Association. It is a conversation that is timely. Feel free to engage with us across all our social media platforms where we are at Lookuptv. Don't go too far.
What about mambo fantastic if not scholastic? Chota kuchota na Hatia Supermarket imerudi. Ukifanya tu shopping ya shilingi 1,000, wewe unaingia kwa promotion ya chota kuchota na Hatia Supermarket. Watu wanaendelea kushinda ndani ya Hatia Supermarket.
Ni yangu.
Mwana tata. Kitoko. Wewe na umeshinda
nini? Yote. Hamsa. Uoga na lala.
Karibu ndani ya Hatia Supermarket uweze kuchota kwa wingi kabisa. Watu wanasema nini? Nakwambia kwamba chota kuchota. Unangoja nini?
Magari 7 za kushindaniwa, TV, fridge, microwave, shopping vouchers, school fees vouchers, instant prizes na zawadi zingine kemkem. Chota kuchota imethaminiwa na Hetia's Oven Fresh Bakery, Gigabyte, Mount Kenya Milk, Clover's Food Products, Velvet, Magic Drink, Pwani Oil, Arenco, Fruit Juice, Masterchef, Toilex, Coolsy, Mika, Wash Ultra, Philos, Pristol, Nivea, My Choice, Ushindi, Fresh Fry, Arimis Jelly, Cabernet Water, Dettol, Ketepa, Meta, Glucose, Coca-Cola, Rosy Tissue, Big Giant, Elbins, Unilever, Fresh, Unga wa Dola, Blue Band na Pasta Star. Shindano la chota kuchota linaanza tarehe 1 Disemba hadi tarehe 10 Februari mwaka 2024.
Hatia Supermarket, a world of choice.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park, fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Tere, mambo ni mawili, kufikisha, kumwaga na kurudi. Kulala ni mwaka mpya.
Muka we mse. Nini mbaya? Wewe kwani wani vile dereva anaendesha gari vibaya, lazima tususe. Anaendesha gari na kwa simu the whole time, hata angalia barabara. Tusimame. Wewe dereva wewe, mwaka iliyopita peke yake watu zaidi ya 3,000 walipoteza maisha yao barabarani kwa sababu ya tabia kama hizo. Hautatuangamiza tukiona.
Naomba msamaha, nitampeleka vizuri.
Si wameomba msamaha. Sasa tuende tusafiri kwa mwendo wa aste.
Dere Smart hufikisha abiria salama. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali na Manjoro. Kumbuka hapa ndipo unajifunza mambo mengi kuhusu ukulima. Kilimo ni uti wa mgongo wa nchi, na ukiwa na Njoro unajifunza. Kumbuka, angalia mwenyewe. Tunakuambia ukitaka kujua tips za ukulima, ungana na sisi kwenye Lookuptv. Every Sunday unatukuta pale saa 10, tunakuonesha kuhusu ukulima. Ukulima wa mimea, ukulima wa ng'ombe, ukulima wa kuku, ukulima wa mbuzi na yote ambayo yanahusiana na ukulima. Kumbuka nini? Kipindi ni ukulima ni mali.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner?
Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
Welcome and thank you so much for staying with Lookuptv. This is Look Up Weekend, and right here on the center stage we are talking cervical cancer. January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, and as we are almost winding it up, then it's a good time for us to have this very timely conversation. It is the second most common cancer amongst women in the country, and therefore we need to demystify what the myths, prevention measures and treatment as well. With me right here in studio is Dr. Catherine Nyongesa, who is the CEO and founder of Texas Cancer Center in the country. Karibu.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome.
Yes.
And Ms. Benda Kithaka, CEO Kilele Health Association, will be joining us any time now via Zoom. But let's begin the conversation, Doctor, now that you're here. Oh, I do understand we have Ms. Benda Kithaka, CEO Kilele Health Association. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right, and let's jump straight into this conversation. Cervical cancer. There are many myths and misconceptions that are surrounding cervical cancer, and the most popular one is that if you have HPV, which is the human papilloma virus, then you get cervical cancer. Is that correct?
Yeah, okay. So we know that cervical cancer, one of the major risk factors is HPV infection.
Right.
However, this HPV infection, there are various types. There's the high risk type, which is very commonly associated with cervical cancer, and there are other types that may not cause cancer.
Right.
The thing is that HPV is a common virus. Out of 5 women in a room, 4 would have experienced that HPV at one time or another, but it has no symptoms. So it doesn't mean that if you have HPV, you will have cervical cancer. It's only a few cases where this virus persists in the body and eventually, ultimately leads to cancer.
Right. So does it mean that when the virus is in the body untreated, then it could lead to cervical cancer?
Over 80% of these viruses, right, our body deals with them and they eliminate them. But however, a few percentage due to some, maybe you have some risk factors or you're just unlucky, this virus may persist and cause changes in the cervix and ultimately lead to cancer.
Right, and symptoms. These are very vital because there are some cases which are discovered when the cancer is at perhaps stage 3 or stage 4, which is a very advanced stage. So for someone just looking out for the signs and symptoms of cervical cancer, what can we look at for?
So generally we recommend screening because in early stages you may not experience any signs and symptoms of cervical cancer.
Right.
However, as the cancer stays in your body without treatment, then it may cause some symptoms. The common one include abnormal vaginal bleeding. For example, you can bleed after having sexual intercourse. You will see some spotting. Right. Bleeding in between periods. Maybe your period comes once a month, but this time around you have bleeding in between. You may be when you go to the gyno, maybe for an examination, he examines like this, or the doctor, if it's a female, whoever is examining, after examination, you see some bleeding.
Right.
You may also have postmenopausal bleeding, whereby you've passed menopause, your periods have stopped, but suddenly some bleeding comes back. You may have heavy bleeding. Other symptoms include a vaginal discharge,
Right.
which may be foul smelling. You may have what can I say, pain in the lower part of the abdomen. You may have pain during sexual intercourse.
Right.
So, but cervical cancer is one of also the biggest mimicker. So even if you have these signs and symptoms, it could be also like you have other gynae conditions.
Also, it could mimic other diseases as well.
Yes, like STDs or STIs, fibroids. So it's always good that one needs a medical diagnosis.
Right. And to include you, Ms. Benda, in this conversation, then you are largely an advocate on these matters. So how important is it then for people just to be in a community? We're talking people who are fighting through cancer or survivors of cancer as well.
I hope you can hear me from the studio.
Yes.
Yes, so to speak into the issue of joining support groups or being in a community that is working with others towards cancer control, it is very important that we get people to understand umoja ni nguvu. In cancer, most often, as you were talking about stigma and fear and the myths and misconceptions about cervical cancer, it's important that we remember people going through a cancer disease or cancer treatment are still people who have to advance towards quality of life.
Right.
And what we've seen is that when people associate with others in a group, or when they become members of a community that is also dealing with the same issue, survivorship or cancer treatment, then it's easier to get advice or coping mechanisms, or to understand better the symptoms and the signs that someone is going through, and therefore they are better able to be advised about coping. And that is why we encourage people to get into groups so that they can support each other. They can get also support from other experts and get expert information on survivorship, on cancer care, on management. And because some of the things that they discuss, like for example, diets and physical exercise and mental wellness and counseling and coaching, some of them are not readily necessarily available in the public sector. But when they join the support groups, then some of these support groups do offer such services. That's why it's important. Nobody should walk alone. If they can, let them join a support group close to them.
Right. And even as we're creating more awareness of cervical cancer, sensitizing and just try to amplify the message, you talked about stigma. And there is stigma that comes with cancer patients. And we're talking about cervical cancer, which the disease can escalate into, bringing problems even within marriage, even during sex. So then how can the general public then handle people who are fighting through cancer?
I will start with stigma to cancer patients across board, even before we talk about cervical cancer.
Right.
There is this misconception or misperception that cancer is a death sentence. And I will say what Dr. Nyongesa has just spoken into, that with early diagnosis and with timely access to treatment, some cancers need not even lead to death. People can still survive and have very good quality of life. And so, coming back to cervical cancer, there is the misconception that because it's caused by a virus that is sexually transmitted, there is the misconception that for the woman to have cervical cancer, they have to have been promiscuous. But one of the things that we need to educate the community is that because HPV is passed on from one person to another, then it means if somebody has had intercourse with somebody else who has HPV, high risk, and they are also intimate with somebody else and somebody else and somebody else, that HPV is still in the body and it can be passed on to the next partner they are with. So it's not always the fault of the woman that she would have cervical cancer and therefore it was caused by promiscuity. And so for us as communities, we need to move the conversation from how is HPV passed on from one another into what can we do to prevent or minimize HPV transmission. And there are two methods that are proven to do so. One is by vaccinating. When we vaccinate our girls as communities, we're equipping them with the ammunition to fight any HPV coming into their system. And because it's done very early, they can be able to then build their immunity to fight HPV into the future.
Right.
The second one is, as Dr. Nyongesa mentioned, screening for early detection. Every woman is at risk of cervical cancer because we don't know in which woman it will clear and we don't know in which one it will stay. And so the best defense is getting women to understand their risk profile, that they could be at risk of cervical cancer, therefore get screened, and get men to understand they have an obligation to also take their women for screening, to facilitate. Sometimes it requires facilitation, transport, or money for the test itself. We need to facilitate that so that women feel empowered to take up prevention. We also call on governments because everybody has a role to play. The government of Kenya is providing services, and in some instances, like in January, we have free screenings all over. We need to get more awareness and education created in the communities so that then people know we have the solutions, we have the technologies, we have the ability to prevent. Therefore, let's take action to prevent cervical cancer, as opposed to stigmatizing women because they're getting sick out of a disease that's preventable. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. And Dr. Then Ms. Bender did mention HPV vaccine. Let's talk a little bit about that. What's the right age for the vaccine? Which categories of people could get a vaccine?
So the World Health Organization has a strategy to eliminate cervical cancer. And one of them is to ensure that children, especially girls, by the age of 15, they get fully vaccinated by the HPV vaccine. Right. If resources allow, even boys can be vaccinated, but we know that cervical cancer is a public health care problem and we see it affecting women because women have a cervix. And in Kenya, we've seen that is one of the second most common cancer. Right. So the reason why the girls should be vaccinated before they become sexually active to make them protected to fight off any of future HPV infections. Right. So basically that is the age group. So we are targeting girls between the age of 9 to 15. Also, the World Health Organization is targeting to have women by the age of 35 and 45, like 70% of them to have gone for screening. Okay. And so obviously, sorry.
Yeah. What about women who are older? Can they get the HPV vaccine?
Yes, older women, but they have to be screened to be sure that you are not infected. And in fact, the age bracket has been extended to about 45 years old. Okay. and below, so you can be vaccinated, but you need to be screened to ensure you don't have the virus, because if you are having an active virus, then the vaccine may not be very effective. Yeah. And then apart from vaccination, also the screening to detect if you are having this virus, because we know that if it persists, it can cause cancer. And as the World Health Organization is also pushing to have more women, over 90%, if you are diagnosed with a pre-cancer lesion or a cancer lesion, that you should get timely treatment.
Right. And Ms. Bender, let's talk about caregivers who carry a huge burden, taking care of people who are fighting through cancer, and in this case, cervical cancer. Then who takes care of them?
Well, that's a very relevant question, Nancy. The reason being, I've been a caregiver twice, to my sister and to my grandfather. And in these instances, what you discover is what you know about cancer and what you experience in the situation where you're taking care of a family member, the things change up. What I like to say is that caregivers face the burden of their loved one going through the disease, and their fears, their concerns, their medical treatment journey, their needs, their requests, their requirements, but also the caregivers' needs themselves need to be taken care of. Because when you're bottling up so much that you're going through, and you don't want to show your loved one that they're going through a hard time, and therefore you're taking them in and at the same time projecting it on yourself, we found that sometimes even caregivers themselves face fatigue, mental wellness issues. Right. They will also face stigma in the community because they're the ones constantly fundraising for their loved ones, and so people start looking at them as the person who is always asking for money. And so the question you're asking, who takes care of caregivers, is a very relevant one. At Kilele Health, what we've done is we've taken on the burden of both the caregivers as the cancer patients as well. And we are putting up mechanisms for psychosocial counseling, right, so that the caregivers have an opportunity and an avenue where they can also be able to get counseling from fellow caregivers who are trained as counselors. They can also get a support group where they can air their concerns, air their views, and so that we are all walking the journey together. I think, personally, when it comes to caregiving and care for the caregivers, right, even medical doctors themselves need to be taken care of as the caregivers, because you can imagine in a country where we have very few oncologists taking care of over 42,000 patients who are diagnosed annually, and every year there are others who are surviving, and therefore they still have clinic that they have to follow through. I always ask myself, who is taking care of these doctors? Who is taking care of the oncology nurses? Who is taking care of the medical fraternity, even as we're taking care of the caregivers in the family? And so we need active engagement to have policies that provide for caregiving as also a source, a need in oncology care.
Right. And Dr. so for the screening, so take us through a simple layout of for the screening, and so if someone is found to have the cancer, cervical cancer.
So screening is for trying to detect any changes in the cervix, right, before it even becomes cancerous. But unfortunately, some women are, when they go for screening, they are actually detected to have active cancer. So when you have active cancer, you need a confirmation, and that will be a biopsy. Right. A biopsy, the tissue is taken to the laboratory to check to see if these are invasive cells. The precancerous lesions that we pick up during screening are non-invasive, but once it becomes invasive, then that is an actual cancer, and from there the doctor will determine the stage and then advise on treatment.
Right. So depending on what stage of cancer one is in, then it will determine the kind of treatment they get.
Yeah, definitely, because we have various modes of treatment. For the precancer lesions, we can do, it takes a very short time, and it includes cryotherapy, where they freeze those cells on the cervix, right, or thermal ablation. They heat those cells, then they die off. That is for the precancer. But once you've formed a cancerous tumor, then depending on the stage, the early stages is stage 1 up to stage 2A, then locally advanced is 2B up to stage 4A, and then if it has spread to distant organs or metastatic, we call it stage 2B. So for early stages, surgery can be performed. Right. And for locally advanced, you may need a combination of radiotherapy with using X-rays for treatment together with chemotherapy. And for metastatic or stage 4 cases, then you may just need chemotherapy. However, sometimes this treatment can be used in combination depending on the findings by your doctor.
Right, and the effects of treatment, which from one patient to another, just depending, the treatment of cancer, going through chemo, the radiotherapy as well, what effect does it have on the human body?
So we have the treatment-related side effects, like if it's chemo, you'll have nausea, vomiting, tiredness, lack of appetite. If it's radiation, then there will be local changes. And if we narrow down to cervical cancer, most of those women, they go into menopause. They may not be able to bear children anymore because of the radiation. Some of them have sexual issues, like maybe their birth canal becomes narrower after the radiotherapy. They feel pain during intercourse after this treatment. They may have skin changes where the radiation, the rays of radiation passed through. And in addition, apart from external beam radiotherapy, we also do what's called brachytherapy. This is internal treatment where we put applicators into the birth canal and then we pass radiation through them. And women really complain during this procedure of brachytherapy because it's quite uncomfortable and it can be painful. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of steps have been made just fighting cancer in general. So perhaps are there any more treatments that are in the pipeline?
Yeah, World Health Organization has taken this up as a global problem, and there are a lot of efforts geared towards it. And in terms of treatment advances, we have fertility-sparing surgeries for early cervical cancer. We also have immunotherapy. These are advanced medication that can be used for treatment of cervical cancer, both in the early stage and even in the metastatic stage. So there's a lot that is going on.
Right. And it's not possible to completely prevent it, but when you talk matters like nutrition, then our diet, in terms of just living a healthier life so we can reduce the chances of cancer cells growing. What would your advice be?
So, unfortunately for cervical cancer, 99.9%, most of it is related to HPV. Right. So our focus is really vaccination for the younger girls, and also screening for women who never had an opportunity to get this HPV vaccine. We also know that a weakened immunity can also be a risk factor for cancer and even cervical cancer. So a healthy eating, balanced diet, just being strong is important for our body to fight off some of these diseases. Other things that you need to take good care of yourself is practice safe sex methods, if possible. Avoid multiple sexual partners. For our girls, I think they need to wait until they are mature enough, maybe before they involve themselves into these sexual activities. And if they have to do it, then they need to seek advice from a mature person to guide them and really tell them the risks of this kind of engagement. Also we see that I think sex education in schools, it's important, apart from focusing on diet, just focusing on well-being and how to take good care of yourself.
Right. And after treatment, some people recover from it, the fighting cancer. Then the checkups after one has, they're cancer-free. So what is the importance of the checkups even later when one is already cancer-free?
Because cancer can come back despite treatment. And you're also just a human being, so you can get other diseases. So we strongly recommend that you go for your regular checkup. Also, we know that there are long-term side effects associated with the treatment, so the doctors need to review you and address some of those complications. Also help you on how to cope through this situation. And it is very important that you really follow the doctor's schedule.
Right. And the government support. We know the NHIF now, which is going to be SHIF, has been involved to some extent in sorting perhaps some of the chemotherapy sessions. But how would you say the government has performed so far in fighting cancer in the country?
I would say in the past 5 years, we've seen a revolution in cancer care support by the NHIF. It has been paying for radiotherapy 20 sessions.
Right.
For chemotherapy, it pays fully the 6 sessions or 5 sessions that the standard treatment. For brachytherapy, they cover for 2 sessions out of 3. So they have eased that financial burden to the patient. Our government also has purchased vaccines, HPV vaccines, right, which are actually, some of them are expiring in the counties, and we know that this is a major public health care problem. So we encourage mothers and parents in general to take their girls for this HPV vaccination, because it's going to save our nation, and in future the issue of cervical cancer will be much lower than what we are seeing now if we take a proactive role and take our children for this HPV vaccination, which is safe and it has been approved by the World Health Organization.
Right. And even as we wind up, just like what Ms. Bender said, that caregivers and doctors are part of these caregivers. You are one of the top oncologists in the country. How do you take care of yourself after taking care of so many Kenyans who are fighting through cancer?
Yeah, it's not easy, but I pray. I also listen to music just to try and really get away. Right. And what keeps me going also is the positive stories of the men and women and children that have been treated with cancer, and you meet them and they tell you, doctor, you know, you treated us, or we were treated and we are doing well. And that is how I really take care of myself.
Right. Mm. And your clarion call perhaps to people who are, perhaps they're suffering, but they're scared to go test, because at times people say what you don't know can't hurt you, can't kill you. Mm. But cervical cancer is real.
It's real. Women, let's be proactive. When you are going to antenatal clinic, take that opportunity to be checked. When you are taking your baby for clinics for their immunization, request your doctor that it's an opportunity for you to be screened. Whenever you go to hospital to visit someone, or you have a loved one who is unwell, just reflect on yourself, because this screening can be done every 5 years. Right. For those who are HIV negative. So take an initiative at age 35, at least do one screening. When you 5 years later, do another one, like that. And once we have this kind of proactive role, I think we're going to fight cervical cancer.
Right, and thank you so much for being part of this conversation. We'll continue to create more awareness, and as well, just people can feel free to engage with us and ask the questions which we could be sampling, but we are out of time. But let's continue engaging across all our social media platforms. That is our conversation for tonight as we end the month of January creating awareness of cervical cancer. I have been speaking to Dr. Catherine Nyongesa, who is the CEO and founder, Texas Cancer Center. And Director, do we have Ms. Bender on the line? Right. So, and Ms. Benda Kithaka, who's the founder and executive director, Kilele Health Association. And Daktari, as we wait for Ms. Benda to come and give her final remarks, then it would be important just to know the message of cervical cancer. What is the age that is most affected, the ones that you receive at the clinic?
So we see women of the reproductive age, and majority of them are middle-aged women. Though, as we said earlier, cervical cancer can attack anyone,
right,
so long as you are sexually active. We have seen women as young as 20 years and older women, so any person can be affected. Once you are exposed to this human papilloma virus, it stays in your body for 10 to 15 years before it transforms that cervix to cancer.
Right.
And statistics show that most of our girls are engaging in sexual intercourse at a very early age. And early sexual debut is one of the risk factors for cervical cancer. And we've seen if you engaged maybe from age 15, so you have 10, 15 years to develop the cancer if that virus persists in your body. And that is why,
30.
yes, so that's why we are seeing it also in younger women. But majority are middle-aged women.
Right. Thank you so much, Daktari. That is Dr. Catherine Nyongesa, CEO and founder, Texas Cancer Center, and one of the top oncologists in the country. And as well, we have been speaking to Ms. Benda Kithaka, who is the founder and executive director, Kilele Health Association. A very timely conversation right here on the center stage, where we have been demystifying cervical cancer, just understanding what really causes cervical cancer, what are the treatment and prevention measures as well. Thank you so much for your time. I am Nancy Nelima. Our sign language interpreter for tonight has been Felista Adundo. Do have yourselves a pleasant evening.